Hi, I'm Eric Fulmer and this is James Reed. We are the instructors for this tree climbing class this fall semester, along with others. The reason we are not here today is that we are in Costa Rica. We have planned a Tree Climbers Rendezvous, climbing big trees in Costa Rica for about 2 years. It's an annual event that happens at different locations. Up till now it's been in the United States only, so we are in charge of putting on the first international one. But you are in good hands today. We have some good substitute teachers for you here, and you will get a chance to climb today also. So my background is I have worked here in the East Bay since the late 70s with trees. I started out working as a climber for commercial tree companies, and then I had my own business, small tree service, Treework. I still have it, but it's scaled way back. I worked for a while simultaneously for the East Bay Regional Parks, and I do tree climbing tours and recreational tree climbing, and now I am also a consulting arborist and a teacher.
Hi, I'm James Reed. I also go by Captain Monkey. I've been doing tree work since 2001, where I started up in Alaska, and I worked my way down around the rest of the United States. One of my jobs was following hurricanes and disasters and doing hazardous tree cleanup work. I came to the Bay Area in 2008, and I've been doing tree work locally, and I started a nonprofit myself to teach tree climbing around the world. It's called the Tree Monkey Project, and so I teach tree climbing to indigenous tribes and other nonprofits that can use it to help save the forest and save the environment. So I'm also going to be assisting Eric this semester in teaching, and I'm happy to see you all after we get back from our trip.
And this class is going to be mostly hands-on. We're going to climb trees right out here outside of the building at the Merritt College Landscape Horticulture Ground. We can do some actual tree work, and we're going to go out to different remote locations and work as a team and prune trees. So it's mostly learning by doing, but there's a little bit of reading also. We have 2 books. This is your required textbook, The Tree Climber's Companion. You know, it is small, but it has a lot of good information. This class has 3 written tests with closed book. All the answers to the test will be in this book. So read it, and read it twice or 3 times. Then we have another recommended text, which is the ANSI Z133. These are the recognized safety standards in the tree care industry. This covers climbing. It also covers working on the ground with chainsaw, working with chippers, and all different aspects of tree service. So this class is all about safety. This is a good thing to have for reference and to know what the best safety practices are. For example, in here, there's one rule is when you climb a tree, you always stay tied in. And sometimes if you climb a tree, if you have a tree with a lot of branches, you can climb it like a ladder. It's tempting just to climb it. You go up to where you want to tie in and then tie in and start your work. Well, that's against the rules. You stay tied in always. And that's a good idea. I know of one accident where a very experienced climber was doing just free climbing up and fell. So it's from when you leave the ground till you're on the ground, you stay tied in. Just an example of the rules you'll find in here. Okay, PPE, personal protective equipment, is very important. You should always wear it. There's just a few items that you need. You need a helmet. The helmet has to be rated for climbing. It has to be a helmet that'll take a side impact, not just something falling on it, because you could swing into the tree and get hit on that side. Also, it needs to have a chin strap to stay on your head. You need eye protection, you know, always when climbing, not just when cutting, because, you know, little stuff comes flying through the air. And you need ear protection whenever you use a chainsaw. You can either use the earmuffs, like I have, or you can use the earplugs. That's a matter of personal preference. I like the muffs because the earplugs, every time you take them out and put them back in, you roll them with your fingers, you stick them in. During the day you get pine sap, maybe gas and oil in your fingers, so you put all that stuff in your ear. So I just like these. And that's it. And then when I talk to people, I go this. I don't want to hear what they're saying. I just go like that. So as far as chaps, which are your chainsaw protective things that go on your legs, or chainsaw cut resistant pants, are good for working on the ground. They're not required for climbing because they get in your way, you're too bulky. Also, your legs are not the most exposed part. If you use a chainsaw up here, it's not going to help you to be protected down here. But just remember, that's it. Always a helmet when climbing, when working with when in the tree, underneath the tree. Gloves, in the ANSI standard, gloves are optional. But for this class, we want you to wear them. And in general, gloves are absolutely necessary if you're working ropes. If you're a ground person working ropes and the climber is lowering weight, you don't want bare hands. They're going to get burned. And you get burned, then you might let go of the rope, and that's even worse than getting burned. So that's it for PPE. Okay, so when you get out to a job site, you're going to climb a tree and do some work on it. The first thing you do is do a pre-climb inspection. And that involves three parts. You inspect your equipment, you inspect the site, and you inspect the tree. So we'll go over how to inspect the equipment in some detail later on. And when you inspect the site, you stand back and look at what's around the tree. One thing you want to make sure you double check for is wires. You would think that's obvious, but sometimes they're hidden by foliage and you don't see them. So you make sure there's no electrical wires, or if they are, you know where they are and how to deal with it. And then depending on your job specification, depending on what's underneath the tree, you make a plan. Then you take a good look at a tree, you go closer. Typically you inspect it from the ground up. So you'll look at the base of the tree. Are there any cavities? If there's mushrooms, that means there's wood decay. And here we have an issue right here, poison oak. So you want to stay out of that, and you want to keep your ropes out of it. You could have your ropes dragging through it all day. You think you're fine, but then when you handle the rope, you get the oil on you, and there you go. Then you look up in the tree. We have some dead branches. When the branch dies, it starts losing its strength. So you assume that it has lost all its strength. You assume that it can fall off, break off at any time. You don't want to put anything on it. So you're aware of where they are. You see if there's any broken branches hanging that are ready to go, anything like that. In this particular tree, it has two tops. It has a narrow angle of attachment. That is often the weak point. It all depends if the bark is in between the two tops. So if it's up high and you're not sure what's going on, you can check it with your binoculars, get a good look. And then you want to plan your climb. You want to decide what the specifications are. Like if it's removal, you tie in high and start working the lower stuff. And you find a spot to tie in and a spot that says your load line. If it's pruning, let's say you need to remove the dead wood close to the trunk. It's a typical specification. There's not that much, but you would go up and work your way up, remove all the dead wood you can reach. And let's say the specifications are to reduce the bigger branches, to reduce their risk of failure. Here we have a big horizontal branch. Okay, so you need to go out on that and make some cuts in the end. Then you decide for that to work, where do you want to be tied in? So you want to be tied in as high as possible over that branch. That way you have the best balance to go out. And these are the kind of things you look for. So there's a difference between a tree risk assessment, which is seeing if there's a risk of the tree for failing or any part of the tree within a time frame, could be a year. That's more detailed and it's more long term. The pre-climb inspection is, are you safe? Is it safe to climb? And how are you going to climb it? What is your strategy? Where do you want to tie in? How do you want to access the tree? Sometimes the tree is deemed not safe to climb. Then you have different options. If you can reach it with a bucket truck, that's the way to do it. If you can't do that, sometimes you can tie into taller trees close by. You can work with a crane. So there's different options. But if in doubt, don't climb it. If the tree is dead, don't climb it. But in this case, the main problem is a poison oak. So when you choose your tie-in point, you want to choose something that's strong enough to support your weight. Now, your climbing line by the ANSI standard is supposed to be rated for a minimum of 5,400 pounds. You want to consider that the weakest link. you want the other links in the climbing system to be stronger than that. And when you look at a branch, how strong this is, you know, that's an estimate, you don't know, but you don't want that to be weaker than the climbing line. You want something that's really strong that can hold your weight, because even though 5,400 pounds sounds like a lot, if you take a fall and you put a shock load on the rope, you know, even though you weigh a lot less, you know, but with acceleration and momentum, it can get up close to that. So here are the pine. You know, you can tie in ways out on these big beams. You can tie into something that's maybe down to 6 inch diameter, maybe go about 1/2 of the distance from the trunk. If it's right next to the trunk, you can go a little bit smaller. Sometimes you have trees like second growth redwoods, they have a lot of branches, but they're thin. So the only way to tie into those is you want to tie into several of them and be right next to the trunk. So if they're sloping down, you don't tie into them because your rope can move down. You want one that's sloping up a little bit, your rope stays next to the trunk and you go over 2 of them. And by experience, you get to rate different species, like an oak tree or a sycamore is stronger, you can tie into a smaller branch. And that's what you're looking for. So when you need to set your climbing rope in a tree, then what you can use, what we typically use, is a thin line known as a throw line with a throw ball on it. You throw it into the tree, you use that to pull your climbing rope up. So we like to carry them in these cubes, they're really handy, so James will show you how to unfold that.
So yeah, the cube folds up into a nice little triangle here, but it can be very confusing to try and open up. So the thing to do is to open up the first section here until you get it into a larger triangle. You want to lay it down at that point because you don't want to shift it around, otherwise the throw bags inside might get tangled with the lines. Open it up until you see where the line is, and then the trick here is to put a foot on each corner just lightly, and then you're going to twist the box open, and that's how you're going to open up these cubes. If you try and do anything else, you potentially could get the line all tangled inside there. The next thing, so this is your throw bag, and this is what we use generally in the industry. It's just basically a bag made of either steel or lead pellets, and then we have special throw line string. It's actually heavier duty than you can find in a hardware store. It can take a lot more pull on it than you would be able to get from Home Depot or from a regular hardware store. So we recommend buying this rather than getting it from a local store. Now there are a couple of ways of throwing, a couple of techniques. Either you can use one arm. The thing we caution you against doing, if you're doing just a short throw, you can throw overhand like this, okay? But don't try and throw very high up into a tree overhand because you're actually going to injure your arm and you won't be any good for climbing later. So what we recommend and what the industry does is we do pendulum swings. We swing from underneath, and you can get a lot more distance off of that and a lot more power with a lot less effort and not injure yourself. So one of the techniques that we use is the single cradle. And what we do is we actually take the string and we push it through the ring, and then you bring up the other side, and you'll just cradle that in your finger. And that gives you a nice, then you just pinch it, and that'll give you a nice firm grip on it and not burn your finger as the rope gets through. And also whenever you release, you point your finger in the direction that you want it to go. So one of the other things that we recommend doing is that before you throw your throw weight, we want you to yell "throwing," so that you let everybody else know in the area that there's a throw weight going up and may potentially come down and hit you. Okay? So start swinging the pendulum. You want to get it in line. You want to look at the crotch in the open space. You want to aim for the open space in the crotch that you're aiming for. Do not aim for the tree itself. Otherwise, you'll end up just hitting the tree and not getting through the crotch. So line it up. Throwing! And then you have it over the crotch that you want. And now you can start pulling your throw weight back through and isolate the branch.
And to isolate the branch, that means that both sides of the rope comes down next to each other. There's no branches in between, because that's what you need the way you climb. As you go up, you need that.
And you're good to go for the next step. So, another method that we use in order to throw up into the tree, sometimes people aren't as accurate with just one arm, and the other thing too is that you can get more power and even go a little bit higher if you use two arms. So we call this the double basket, and we're going to put the string again through the ring, and this time we're going to hold one side with one finger and hold the other side with the other finger. And this time what you're going to do is you're going to swing it between your legs, okay? And again, you want to line it up with the crotch that you're looking for, aim for the space in between, throwing, and fire it up over. Again, the weight comes down. You want to get it over one crotch only, one branch only. That's called isolating the crotch. So you just pull the weight up over until you get it to the place where you want it, over the branch that you want it, and then you just let it swing back down.
Very good. Okay, so sometimes you have a tree where you want to set your rope higher than you can throw by hand, depending on how good you are. Or you have some trees, like down in Costa Rica, we have tropical trees that are up to 200 feet tall with no lower branches, so we need to get a line way up high. So we use this big shot, which is a slingshot that fits on a pole saw pole, and that can get up quite a bit higher. And it's the same setup with a cube that you can throw back. Open space to aim at. Firing. So you can see I got that wide crutch there, the big U, in very good shape, very strong, and I need to isolate it. There we go. Okay, then I need to isolate it from this side also. You can see there's one branch in my way, and I want this to go fairly vertical up. So what I do is put another bag midline here. Pull that out here. And when I'm isolated, both lines go up right next to each other. Okay, so I'm going to use my throw line to set my climbing line. And this is what we call a campion saber. I want this to go over the branch so the rope runs through it, because that protects the branch, which can be important if you have trees with thin bark, especially in the spring, and it protects the rope. So it's good all around. So what I want to do is tie the climbing line with the throw line. So I tied back a little away from the end, in this case with a clove hitch, and then I put a couple of half hitches on there. That way when I pull it up, it won't come like this and get stuck. It'll go up smooth. If it's a tree with a lot of stuff in the way, epiphytes or little shoots, sometimes I even take the ends, so it's like a cone. But this should work fine right here. And here we go. So I put a slip knot that I can release from the ground right here. Campion saber up. And that's how you set your climbing line from the ground. This here is a basic climbing system. This is what you're going to be climbing on for most of this class. There are other systems that we're going to show you so you know what they are. So each system has certain advantages and disadvantages. This is the best all around for working in trees. And it's also a matter of personal preference. Some people like one over the other. So this is a carabiner tied onto the rope with an anchor hitch. It needs to be tied on with something that cinches down and keeps it in place. You don't want it to flop around. And then you use the carabiner to clip into your tying point on your saddle. This is a friction hitch known as a Blake's hitch. What this does is, if there's no weight on it, you can move it up. If you put weight on it, it'll hold you. So if I want to go up, I transfer the weight to this. I can move the knot up. Every time I let go, it holds me. If I want to come down, all I have to do is push down on it, and it'll let me down nice and easy. If I let go, it'll hold me. The third knot is a figure 8 stopper knot on the tail end. And this is your climbing system. And this is what you're going to be using mostly. But today, for your first climb, we're going to add 2 other things. We're going to add safety knots and a foot loop. So James will show you how that works.
So what we use is locking carabiners in the tree climbing world, because we don't want you to brush up against the tree and have your carabiner accidentally open up and then slip out of your saddle. So in your first climb, what we want to say is that please don't attach yourself or unattach yourself from the carabiner on your first climb. Okay, let the instructor do that for you, and then after, whenever we start training you, you'll get to practice with the carabiner. So we're going to clip you in. The instructor is going to help you get up off of the ground. You want to check and make sure that your saddle feels comfortable. Okay, you don't want to feel like it's cutting into your chest where you can't breathe, and you also don't want to feel like you're getting a wedgie. Okay, so make sure you adjust the saddle before you get up in the air, otherwise your climb is going to be extremely uncomfortable, and we do have ways of getting, being able to address that. So these are the foot loops, and this is how you're going to climb today. What you're going to do is you're going to put a foot in a foot loop, put the other foot in a foot loop. Now this is a foot loop knot. What you're going to do is you're going to pick up your knees to your chest, and you're going to push that foot loop knot up the rope. Don't try and go too far. You're going to end up working against yourself. So just take easy steps. What you want to do is you want to put one hand below the Blake's hitch knot, one hand above. You're going to stand and pull at the same time, and then you're going to push up on that Blake's hitch. You'll sit back down. You're going to have to loosen up this foot loop knot just slightly so that it slides easy. Pick your knees up to your chest, slide it up. One hand below the Blake's hitch, one hand above the Blake's hitch. Stand and push the Blake's hitch up. Okay? So it's sit, stand, push a knot up, push the knot up. And that's how you're going to ascend up the tree. Once you get up about 5 to 6 feet off of the ground, we're going to have you make a knot in line below your foot loop knot, and this is called the safety knot. What it is just a simple slip knot. So you're taking a loop of rope, you're going to spin it over so that the 2 pieces of rope cross. You're just going to reach down in, grab another loop of rope, pull it out, and you want to make sure that knot is tight, and you're just going to leave it sit. You'll make one of these knots about every 10 feet up the rope as you're climbing. So once you get up to the height that you want to go, at that point you can hang out, enjoy it. When you're ready to come down, there are 3 steps. First step is take your feet out of the foot loops. The second step is going to be loosen up that foot loop knot just slightly so that it slips up and down, and you can just let it rest down. The third step is to hold the rope beside your saddle, and you're going to reach up with 2 fingers, and you're going to pull down gently on the Blake's hitch knot. And as you pull down gently on the Blake's hitch knot, it's going to start to release and it'll let you down gently. You don't want to pull too hard, because the harder you pull, the faster you'll come down. If by chance you do pull too hard and you do slip, that's why we put the safety knot in. And the safety knot is going to catch you. Since it's a slip knot, we can just pull it out, and then we want you to start coming down slowly and gently again. Okay? Oh, yeah. All right, so we found ourselves an unwilling volunteer named Judy.
Hi.
No, she's actually willing. She came down from Montana and hasn't climbed a tree since she was a little girl. So we're going to demonstrate how well this works. I'm going to put this on, put the carabiner on, flip you in. So what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to reach up on this part of the rope with both hands as high as you can. Okay, and then I want you to pull down and jump at the same time. Okay, let go. Okay, can you still hit the ground? Can you still touch the ground? Mm-hmm. Okay, so try it one more time. Yep. Okay, now go ahead and let go. Sit back. Okay, so how does your saddle feel? Does it
good.
feel comfortable?
Yeah.
Okay. No wedgies?
Nope.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put your feet in foot loops here. So what you want to do is you want to take this foot loop knot and you want to pull it up the rope, bend your knees to your chest. There you go. It's probably good right there. Yep. One hand here. Now take this other hand and reach around to the other side, around this part of the rope. So take your hand here, there you go, and reach right there. Okay? Mm-hmm. So now I want you to pull and stand at the same time. Go ahead. Stand up.
The correct hand.
Yep. You got it. That's it. So stand up a little bit more. That's it. Can you get a little bit more out of it? All right. Perfect.
So.
Okay. So sit back. Mm-hmm. And then I want you to take this knot and move it up to here. Now if it's a little, there you go. If it's a little tight, you can loosen up that knot. Okay. So again, one hand below. Nope. Only use the rope that goes all the way down to the ground. There you go. Okay, try it again. Stand up. Push up on the Blake's hitch. That's it. Okay.
I need to loosen it a little, right?
Yeah. Wow, that's it. You're already a professional.
Kind of fun.
It's actually pretty easy, isn't it?
Yeah.
There you go. All right. So at this point, you're about 4 feet off of the ground. So go ahead and make your first safety knot for me. Take a loop of rope. So in order to tighten it, what you do is you're going to hold the top here, and you're just going to push down on the knot. So hold the rope from the top of the knot. There you go, and then just push down on the knot. That's it. Okay. And now you can keep going. It's like you've been doing this all your life. Now this method is a little bit slower because of using the foot loops. We do have some other methods using foot locking and also mechanical devices called the foot canteen. That'll make you go up a little bit faster. So they will be taught in further classes. Okay, if you want to put in another safety knot for me and then go up 2 more times. Okay, so now you're ready to come down. So we want you to go ahead and take your feet out of the foot loops. We want you to loosen up the foot loop knot. Yep, just let it slide down the rope. Now hold the rope down by your side with one arm, and then the other hand, just use 2 fingers and pull down gently on the Blake's hitch. And whenever you reach your safety knot, go ahead and pull that out before it hits the knot, before it hits the Blake's hitch.
Too late.
It's okay. There you go. Now you don't have to, now you can let go of the rope right at this point. You should be fine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, so at any point, whether you're going up or whether you're coming down, you can let go of the Blake's hitch and you're going to stay and stop where you're at. Okay, go ahead. Okay, go ahead and take out your safety knot. Come all the way down to the ground.
Very good, Judy. What do you think?
It was fun.
So anyway, right now I'm going to go through and teach you some foot locking techniques that are going to be more efficient than using the foot loops. And these techniques are going to be more efficient and help you climb faster and allow you to access the tree even up in the tree. It'll help you maneuver around and make you a more efficient climber. So again, we get ourselves up off of the ground, make sure the saddle's okay. So one of the first ones, which is basically the one that I prefer using, is the double foot locking method. And what you're going to do is, let's see if I can keep spinning around here. You're going to cross your feet, stick the rope in between, and then what you're going to do is you're going to pull the bottom foot all the way over the top, and you're going to pinch the rope in between the top foot and the bottom foot. So it's going to be, you're going to actually stand on top of your foot and pinch the rope in between. So you also want to make sure that you have, in order to be able to do that, you don't want to have a high heel on your boot. You want to have something that's a little bit tight. If you have a high heel, the rope is going to slip through it and you won't be able to catch it and pinch it the right way. So you have to pick up your knees, pinch, and then you're just going to be able to stand like you would in the foot loop. This is going to take a lot of abs, but it's going to make you a faster climber. Now, you're going to be able to use these after you become a little bit more proficient. Obviously, if you're climbing fast, stopping to take time to put in a safety knot. Once you get more and more experience, the safety knot is in there for new people who are not quite familiar with maintaining awareness of their Blake's hitch. So once you start learning these techniques, you can drop out the safety knot. Also, you still don't want to come flying down the rope once you are familiar with it, because you can actually burn the rope if you come down too fast. And now these ropes are fairly expensive, and too expensive to keep replacing after only a short amount of use. So that's the double foot locking. The single foot locking method is something that is more efficient as you get higher. It becomes more an easier to use method. But what you're going to do is you're going to make a loop in the rope. And what we like to say is you're going to make a P, the letter P in the rope, and you're going to stick that's going to be on the inside. The rope is going to actually cross over on the inside of your foot. Now the technique here is that you'll bend your toe down when you want to stand, and then you're going to pick your toe up when you want to lift your foot. Okay? So the trick with this is point your toe down and stand up, then point your toe up, and the rope will fall through. Point it down, stand up, point it up, the rope falls through. Now it becomes more efficient the higher that you go, because the weight of the rope itself will actually start to pull itself down. And this method could be switched from one foot to the other. Now, one more method is actually not a foot locking method. It's called hip thrust. And hip thrust takes a lot of energy, is not quite as efficient. The benefit of the hip thrust is actually when you're up in the canopy and you have to maneuver around trying to climb around branches, or if you're right up against the trunk of the tree, where you can actually kick off of the trunk of the tree. It takes a lot of energy, so it's not one that's used very often for professional climbers. But what you're going to end up doing is you're going to pick up your feet and lean back at the same time and use the momentum. There's going to be a point at where your weight becomes very light on the rope, and you just pull down on the rope. You're kicking up, pulling back, pull down on the rope, and you push up on the knot. So it actually, it's a very well-coordinated trick to be able to do this. And it takes a lot of arm strength. But, like I said, when you get up in the tree, there are times when you have to maneuver around branches, where you have to be able to use your feet to stabilize, and this method comes in handy, just for short movements.
Okay, so I'm going to show you how to tie the basic climbing system that I showed you. It has 3 knots: the anchor hitch, the Blake's hitch, and the figure 8 knot. So I start by tying an anchor hitch to the carabiner. Go around once, go around back, go around this part of the rope, which is known as the standing part, go through the 2 loops there, and then tighten up on that. This is a cinching nut. When you put weight on that, it'll bind down and the carabiner won't flop around. Now, if you've done some rock climbing, you might have tied in with a follow-through figure 8, which is the same as a figure 8 on a bite. And that's fine for rock climbing because you tie into fabric loops, so it doesn't matter. With a carabiner, it doesn't work. It's going to flop around. If you get loaded like this, it's a lot weaker. And the ratings is stamped on here. If I can see it, it'll say it'll say if you load it along this, what's called the spine, you know, the strength is 25 kilonewton. If you load it like this, it's 7 kilonewton, so a lot weaker. So this is how you want it to stay in place. And then it's usually easier to tie the Blake's hitch when you're clipped in. Put a little tension on the rope. Okay, let me tie the Blake's hitch. Go around once, twice, on the finger, once, twice around the rope, underneath the bridge, up through the bottom 2 loops. And then when you tie a knot, there's 3 steps known as tie, dress, and set. So you make sure that the loops are lined up. You dress it and you set it, you put a little weight on it, and it looks good. And then your final knot is a figure 8 on the tail end. Go around like this, instead of going right through there as an overhand knot, go around this part, and you have a figure 8. Like this, you tie that close to the Blake's hitch. That prevents the tail from creeping through, which it rarely does anyway, just a little extra security there. So these are the 3 knots, and you will have plenty of opportunity later today to practice them until they become automatic for you.